The single most important thing in your life is you, your story, your ability to let people know who you are and your influence. If you have all of that, that's where success comes from. That's where being able to have a great family comes from. All of that comes from your story, which is one of the most important things you have here. Well, Aleya Harris is here. Guess what? We're going to talk about stories. She's going to let us know how we should do it, why we should do it, her story. We're really going to dive into it because ultimately, at the end of the day, end of this episode, what we want you to know is that you're not alone in your life, and there are a lot of people out here to help you. And the best way to get help is to communicate and let people know your story, where you're at, where you want to go. So, all right, girl, it's on you. Why don't you tell us about, give us your story, give us your background.
Okay, I will try to give the succinct version of this background. I am currently a strategic storytelling consultant, award-winning speaker, and best-selling author. I help people use story to sell, to lead, and to spark the stage. But that hasn't always been the case. I started off in marketing and HR, got laid off, which is probably for the best. And I couldn't get a job the first time I got laid off. Like Uber wasn't really like a thing, right? That should age me a little bit, but don't worry. The eye cream is in full effect, so no one will ever know exactly how old I am. And I said, okay, well, I'm not doing really much of anything. And I went to culinary school. I was in culinary school for 2 years. I became a private chef and opened my first business as a catering and private chef company. I also got an agent, which helped me become the private chef for lots of high net worth individuals. I traveled all over the world doing that. But I didn't really like being part of somebody else's entourage because I wanted to grow my own thing and be my own sovereign ruler of my own empire. But what I did like about that experience was that it helped me understand and get closer to my purpose. My purpose now I can articulate, which is to love people into the highest versions of themselves. And everything I do is an excuse to do that. But I didn't always know that. And so then I became head of marketing for North America after working at Google. And I then got laid off again. And I said, well, what are we going to do here? It's February 2020. I went on an ayahuasca trip to the Amazon. And I said, okay, I'm back now. What are we going to do with my life? And I started the first iterations of this business. And when I committed to myself and I started doing more of the internal work, I realized that I could actually do this. And that was in September 2020. And then within the 6 months after that, I made $250,000 in that 6-month period because I committed to my purpose and staying true to that. And then fast forward, I lost it all and then had postpartum depression. But that's, the rest of the story to leading up till now.
Curveball. That's a
different story. We can tell that story too, should you be so excited.
Right. That's going to different industries like that. Well, first of all, I was going to go to culinary school, but football was my calling. I went to and got my degree in finance. So food is one of the way to all of our hearts, but second, I almost went that route too. When you were going through these two different, I would say 3 transitions. One, you got laid off culinary, and then outside of culinary, then laid off again. Where was your emotional spot at, right? I know the latest one probably was an easier transition than the first two, but talk us through where you were at emotionally and the things that you had to fight internally that no one really, really knew that much of.
Well, my underlying limiting belief is that I am not worthy or valuable. So that always is the first thing that gets hit when some big life shift happens. Over the years, I've learned that change is neutral, and what we do with that change makes us judge whether that change is negative or positive, but change is just neutral. I, most of the time, decided that it was bad. So not only was it bad, but I had done something wrong and I wasn't worthy of whatever good thing could come of it. That was usually my first go-to response. After that, it was sheer panic and anxiety, most likely. Right after that, hit right on those money triggers. an instant descent into living under a bridge as a homeless person. Like, it was like, I've lost my job. I will be under the bridge tomorrow. That's how it felt in my body. I am very grateful to say that I've never been unhoused. I've never had to have that experience, and I didn't grow up that way either. I grew up middle class. So where that even comes from, we don't know. Could be generational, could be in my Akashic records, comes from somewhere. Don't know where, but it's instant every time that something happens. And it's not just like a big thing, like being laid off. It's like, I didn't close that deal that I thought I was going to close. Or I remember 1 week, not even that long, like a couple months ago, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to be $300 short on paying my nanny. Oh my God. Oh my God. And like the pain in my chest, I was like, am I having a heart attack? No, I'm not having a heart attack. This is that good old friend of anxiety. And it was $300. And it was like no rational thought really was happening. It was an emotional hijacking happens with me in these situations. And over the years, one thing that I've realized is that I've gotten a lot better. I also am better at asking for help. And I'm also better at seeing the opportunity in the shift. I cannot sit up here and lie to your face and tell you that, no, every change I see is positive. Cut off my leg, I really wanted to hop on the other one. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that. But I have gotten better at seeing that and also taking less accountability. Most people sit here and the whole conversation is around, you got to take accountability for your life. You got to take accountability for your egg. My inner voice is like, girl, sit down. The whole world does not need you to carry it on its shoulder. And what you said that one time is not the reason why this is happening. Or you not actively manifesting well enough is not the reason why you lost that client. Like, sometimes shit just happens. And in each of those transitions, I've gotten better and better at realizing the good parts. And even I still think if you think of like a hero's journey where at the beginning something happens, the hero is called into action. And then before they get to go on the adventure, before the knight gets to go and slay the dragon and run away from the witch or whatever, before all those things happen, you have this moment where supernatural aid comes in. And I'm in that part of this cycle of my hero's journey because I keep hearing, let go, let go. To which I say, I don't know. How can you be more specific? Like, what the hell does that mean? And so I have been getting more specific advice in that area because that's been my problem all along. Thinking that I can control an outcome that's out of my control and not just enjoying the ride and the wave and the changing of the current. So I'm getting better at these transitions. I wouldn't use myself as a gold standard, but maybe a bronze one.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with bronze.
Yeah, no bronze. If you're in the Olympics, at least I medaled.
Right. At least I'm on the stage.
I'm on the stage. You on your couch.
I think it's important for everyone to know what you just said, right? Is you're still learning on this journey. Whatever the hell that looks like, you're still going through it. But also that you need to, the let go thing kills me because I have that same feeling. Like I've had that voice. I'm like, let go. What? Look, I don't want it. But how do I let go?
Yeah.
It's to grasp that, hey, I'm doing these things and we're working through that. I truly believe the biggest difference between people who take the next step in their journey, whether that is to business ownership, career choice, move out of the country, you name it, is what you just said, though, is they have so much accountability that I did 4 breaths this minute. I should have done 5. And that is why, I'm broke. Right.
Yep.
What I mean? Like that you put so much on yourself. Therefore, then you don't tell your real story to people. Then they don't truly know who you are. And that's when it starts to really feel out of control because you're not you. Right. Ultimately,
exactly.
Figuring out who we are and then aligning that with our decisions that we make, as opposed to, I want to be like that person, so I'm going to try to make all the decisions that they make. No, you don't know who they are. You don't know what they go through. And now you're putting this all on you. How do you help those, specifically when we're trying to tell their story, overcome that at least enough to start moving in the right direction?
It's not about overcoming, it's about working with. It's about realigning, because there's actually nothing inherently wrong with any way of being and living. It's the judgment that we put on it that often makes our lives living hells. I made a left step when I should have made a right step. I'm so horrible. That same exact thing could be, I made a left step until a right step. Look, I'm about to start dancing, right? You know, if I just need another left, right, and I'm going to be dancing through life. Like it's totally about the judgments that we put on ourselves. So the judgment of I need to be perfect, the judgment of I can't be seen as fallible because that's bad and wrong and I'll be broke under a bridge, that's what prevents us from walking out and being in our authentic self and telling our story. And the lack of telling that story is actually what is a self-propagating experience, which disconnects you from the people who are trying to learn from you and connect with you and then pay you that money. So what you have to realize is there's a good reason why you're down the path that you're on, and it's 100% valid. And at any point in time, you get to curve the path, change the path, walk backwards, skip, walk on your hands, decide to do a belly flop or do the worm down the path. You can change up the path, the way you're going down it, what you think about it at any single time. The breath that is happening next is the next breath that changes the path. And if that didn't work, then the next one after that might be the one. So what you need to do when you're thinking about, okay, I am listening to you. Hopefully you're listening. If you're not listening, now would be a great time to tune back in. Hello. And say to yourself, I think that I am in fact putting too much on myself. And I am in fact the one preventing myself from telling the story. I'm going to give you the gift that I got a couple of days ago from a guest on one of my podcast episodes. I haven't even released it yet, but his name is Brett Cotter with a C. And he said that the best way to let go of all of the facades, which is really our protection mechanisms that we put up because we don't know if the world can handle our pain, because we certainly cannot. And we feel like it must be too much, too scary, too overwhelming for someone else if we're struggling so much. So we're just going to smile through it and pretend like it's fine. That sounds like you. If you feel like, Aleya, why are you in my living room? Get out. Then I have something for you from my friend, my new friend, Brett. And I did this right after I did the recording, and I burst into tears, and it felt amazing because I haven't been able to cry properly. And I know that that sounds ridiculous, because you're like, there's a wrong and a right way to cry. And I was like, well, not necessarily, but if you're not doing it at all and like the emotion feels stuck, you need to do something. Even if your expression is hysterical laughter, something needs to start shaking around. So this is what he said. He said, put your hand where you feel anywhere in your tension, a block, or anywhere in your body, any sense of block or tension. For me, it's my chest and my throat. Put your hand, for me, I put my hand on my chest, close my eyes, take some deep breaths in and out, and really focus on where that tension is. And then a lot of people are like, okay, now just breathe it out. But what he said that seems like a very minor switch that made a big difference for me, he said to speak what you are feeling. And I started off with like, oh, it's tension, my chest is tight. And then I was like, well, but it's tight because I feel this pressure. I feel this pressure because I feel like I have to be perfect. I feel this pressure because I have to have the world on my shoulder. I feel this pressure because I got this bill I can't pay. I feel this pressure because, and I started just talking it out. And then as I started talking it out, I started crying. Not hysterical boohoo crying, but at that point in time, I would have taken one single tear rolling down the cheek, right? And the miraculous thing was, as that started happening, I started to feel the space in my chest opening, but I also started feeling just kind of the space in my head opening. And I started to feel like there was a gap for someone else's voice besides mine, thank God. Because my voice was just saying some crap. My voice was all up in me saying, you're not good enough. This is stressful. You're so wrong. Body, whoop-de, mean girl, mean girl, mean girl, mean girl. And just knowing that I was able to carve out a space for something good to come in made that huge difference. And I only sat there for like 5 minutes. So that's what I offer you for the people that are trying to change this story of theirs.
Have you seen those memes and those gifs or even the reels about people saying that there's people out there that don't have a voice in their head that's theirs?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think, and then they gave it a name, like some random quasi-sounding medical diagnoses. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think they're just disconnected. I don't know. I don't want to comment on somebody else's lived experience that's not my own. But then I'm like, so what happens in there then?
Right. What is in there? And
what is in there?
A little bit. I don't want it all the time. I like myself sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, do I take a pill and it goes away for a few hours? Something?
Yeah, that would be just silence. I mean, that's what technically meditation is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Technically.
And I'm not a great meditator. I'm a great chanter, but I'm a horrible meditator. But I enjoy doing the meditation with a tone, helps me reconnect and with spirit and source. And then that helps me connect with my clients and people that I'm helping so that I can tell their stories and help them tell their stories. But it's fleeting, but it's blissful. That brain silence is
so
nice.
The problem is when I get it for like, because I'm not used to having it, but when I get it for too long, then my brain's like, whoa, I'm back. There's something wrong with you. You can't be dead this long.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, no. We've heard from you. It's kind of like being in the classroom, and I had firsthand experience in this because this was me, the kid that was like always talking. And then the teacher's like raising her hands to talk, and the teacher is like, anybody else? Like, that's how I feel. Like, we've heard what you have to say. We are thoroughly aware of what your opinions, thoughts, beliefs are about all of these issues. Is there anyone else that would like to say anything at all?
Anybody. I don't care who, just somebody.
Somebody else who maybe is a little bit wiser and has a more positive thought on this issue. Yeah.
Maybe. Yes,
maybe.
So as you help people, what does the process look like, to get their story out? And like you attested to, there's different ways that are necessary for it, right? Sales, leadership, your own business, public speaking type of stuff. I know we don't need to go down every rabbit hole, but like in general, what's your process look like so that people know like, hey, this is what it means? Because there are a lot of people who are stuck and say, I don't have a story. I don't have anything. I'm going to call bullshit on that, by the way, right now. You do.
Yeah, you do have a story.
But walk us through that.
So I am a framework girl. I'm a Virgo's Virgo. You need a framework? You want me to framework your framework? I'll framework your framework. So the overarching framework that I use is called the Story Spark framework, and it has 3 most basic phases: get real, get clear, and get connected. So what we do first, whether you are wanting to hire me for consultancy to help your company redo your leadership and culture, or whether you're in my Spark the Stage program to help you become a better public speaker, we are going to rifle around inside of you first, because you need to have the understanding and the straight up awareness of when you are on track, when are you off the track that you've decided that you want to be on, how to hear, how to open, how to channel, and what your stories are and what the lessons are that you learned from those stories. Because if you haven't learned anything from the pain doesn't have a purpose. So how can you provide your pain a purpose? By articulating the lesson and how you can use it to uplift others. So that's the first part. Then we get clear, and I have more frameworks for that. So you need to not only know yourself, but you need to be able to communicate that self to other people. That's where connection happens. Not only do you need to be able to communicate who you are, but why should someone listen to you? Why should someone want to be connected with you? If you're talking about a culture, how are you telling me that your problems and lived experience can be shared and understood and experienced by me so that we can move forward together? So I have crisis story frameworks, that radical spark signature talk frameworks that help you understand how to communicate in a compelling way. And then you get connected. It's about how to make sure that your story can take on a life of its own by facilitating a movement of purpose, connection, inspiration, transformation. I do not have the power to transform another individual. Ask my husband. I have tried ad nauseum for about a decade now, and the man is wonderful, but any change he's done, he had to decide to do it on his own, right? That's how it works. You have to decide to transform. So whether you are leading a group of people or you're leading an audience from the stage or you're using story to do that, your job is to make transformation so delicious, so sexy, so tantalizing, so irresistible that people cannot help but decide to go on their own journey to their highest good. Being able to understand how people receive you. It goes down to, what are you wearing? How are you standing? How are you talking? All the way to, what do your slides look like if you're on stage? How do you present your new idea in a company meeting? What should the format be? Where do you put your hands? All of those little things help you connect human to human on a shared experience level that brings everything full circle, so that your personal lived experience, your group lived experience, create something that's bigger than any individual component. And that for me is the power of story.
But Leah, I don't want people to know my business. I just want I don't want to be vulnerable and give out all of that. They don't need to know all that. What do you say to those people? Because I know that comes up. You know what I mean?
It comes up all the time. And my job is not to push you, if you're not ready or not wanting, to tell your deepest, darkest secret. My job is to push you past your boilerplate. My job is to push you past what ChatGPT comes up with about you. Because in a post-pandemic world, in the new wave of a technological revolution where real is at a premium, people are searching for authenticity. So your story, the purpose of your story is to convey that authenticity. And if you don't know how to convey that authenticity, then you are not going to sell. Selling is not what it used to be. Selling used to be able to be like, hey, we got this $5.99. Want to buy? Want to not buy? All right, I'll take $5. And it was ridiculous. Think of the used car sales and commercials from the 80s and 90s, right? They actually worked. That's why there was a thing. That doesn't work anymore. What works is humans buying from humans who people can feel like they trust, because trust is also at a premium. So you don't have to tell your postpartum depression story like I do from the stage. But you should probably tell that time when you gave bad advice to a direct report, or maybe the time when you showed up to a leadership meeting not feeling like yourself and you didn't communicate that well, and what the ramifications of that were. There are different levels of storytelling, but the point is to articulate a shared human emotion, fear, overwhelm, anxiety, imposter syndrome, so that someone else can recognize that you have had an experience like them, or a feeling and an emotion like them, and that you can be someone that they connect with on that point.
But we're just in a time frame in our society that we're stopping putting people on pedestals. We just don't get that you are, name it, the president, LeBron. We don't care what you are.
Right.
Who you are. Right. And that's why what is really cool, I think, obviously I play collegiate football, so sports are my go-to, but we're all seeing a lot of more documentaries behind the scenes of athletes, right? Miles did one in the Olympics, right? We're starting to see a lot more behind the scenes. All that does is bring realism to people.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Take off on Netflix, right? Because we just want to see them be a real ass person, right?
Yeah.
on the outside,
Exactly.
outside. Like we just want to see you be real so we can connect to you. Otherwise, you are this facade, this godlike creature that no one can ever
Hmm.
like. But no, most of them are just regular old people. They can just jump higher or run faster. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the key, I believe, in the storytelling is just letting people know you're a real ass human, not a robot, not a whatever. So it's great to see that.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's very interesting too, because that's kind of like our society's obsession with like reality TV and yeah, reality, which is, or now they don't even call it reality, they call it like non-scripted or something because it's like it's not real. But even the facade of the reality we are craving more, because we just want to feel like we are connected, even if it is blown out of proportion. Or now there's a trend on a non-aesthetic Instagram trend, right? Where people, like regular old people, are like, this is what my actual house looks like as a normal human living in Ohio. Like, it's not these grandiose, super clean, super professional looking homes. Right. And that makes people feel good about themselves. Look, I am an optimist through and through, but shit is hard right now. And I don't really feel like the external world is planning on getting easier at this current juncture in time. I am not a future teller, and boy, howdy, do I hope that I'm wrong. But, I think about my grandfather who had 3 kids, a stay-at-home wife, was able to own his own home, 2 cars, had college funds for all 3 girls, went on vacation twice a year, all on this man's income who just worked in HR. I live in Los Angeles, California, sir. That's not possible. It's just not, you being single in a 1-bedroom apartment, you got 3 jobs, right? We live in a very different world where easy doesn't come as easy. And if you know that, and if you plan on experiencing that with any type of sanity, you will understand that the story that you tell to yourself about who you are and how you can navigate the non-easy, and the story you tell to other people about how you are doing that in an authentic way is what is going to make you stand out. Because the telling of, oh, well, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Don't look over there. Don't look underneath that. And yes, there is a fire behind me, but pay attention to me. Don't look behind me. Just pay attention to me. That is going to ruin your income. You won't be able to move forward in a story that is not even a good fairy tale. It's the things that people thought were inspiring before, like lifestyles of the rich and famous. I'm Robin Leach, right? That doesn't inspire anymore. It makes people feel a little grouchy, cranky, and bitter. Yeah. Right? Because I don't know, something about the lifestyles of the rich and famous before was like, ooh, now it's like, man, that feels like it's in my face and I don't like it. So what are you going to do to be a normal human?
Right. Yep. There's your story. As we get to the end of this, I will ask 2 questions. One's deep. One can get deep, but one's deep for sure.
Okay.
You ready?
I think so.
Okay, you better be.
Okay.
What is your first money memory?
Oh, that's such a good question. There's an app that I use that's called Mastery, Mastry, and it's a hypnotherapy breathwork app. And that actually is one of the questions they ask in the hypnotherapy breathwork session. So I am super prepared for the answer to this question.
Wow. I've never literally been hundreds of episodes. Never once was everyone ever said that. I'm going to take it though,
Yeah.
But damn, that's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. So my first money memory, the one that usually pops up in these hypnotherapy breathwork sessions, is a Christmas morning when I think I was like 7 or so, maybe. Yeah, I think I was 7. My parents divorced when I was 4, and my mom kept the house. And it was Christmas morning, and I got my first big girl bike. And I remember, though, that my mom said something like how one of her friends helped pay for it. And I remember looking at her face and it being excited that she could give it to me, but also this, like, at least how I perceive it, is like this apologetic look, like it couldn't be more, and this sense of like embarrassment that she had to get help buying the bike for me. And what that did in that moment was cemented a very insidious and unfortunate memory that is not my mom's fault. That, oh, I don't deserve this. This money should have gone somewhere else. Or having this good thing that makes me so happy is causing pain to someone I love. And I am unworthy of this moment, even though it was sacrifice. You know, there was sacrifice involved in giving this to me. But what makes me worthy of that sacrifice? Why do I deserve this bike and my mom to feel like how I can tell she's feeling, even though she never said anything bad or wrong, but I could tell and I could feel it. And that, combined with my father always choosing whoever he was dating at the time over me, really cemented, and has been years in therapy and spiritual sessions to uncement, I am not one of the rich people. I am unworthy of success. And I don't deserve what comes my way, because who am I that someone would have to have less so that I can have more? It's a very scarcity-based mentality that's annoying at best and incredibly harmful at worst. But that, when I'm in that meditation, I don't know if it's my very, very first memory, but that's the one that comes up consistently.
We find, when I ask that question, we find that, and you've done the work, so you're a little different, but we find that people understand, like for you, it was like, I'm unworthy. That's what you got essentially from that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And now your entire life has, from then point, you felt that way, right?
Yep.
And it's really interesting because I'm not a therapist, scientist, or any of that, but the data that I've been doing because of this question, where we are today reflects back to when we were at that age.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't do the work, the cycle continues, right? But also, it's funny.
I have something to break to you. Even if you do the work,
It's
the cycle continues. There is no magic stop button. Trust me, I've been looking for it.
It might happen less. It might hurt a little less, but the train still goes.
The train still goes.
And it runs me over every now and again. But when they reflect back and we reflect back on that, it's really funny how it's a money memory that triggers most of how we operate in life. And not like if I said, what was your first happy, joyous memory as a child? I bet it won't be that.
No.
That does not influence you as much today as that money memory did.
Yes, it's very true. We have, it's horrible actually to think about, because how much pain shapes us more than pleasure, or at least more overtly.
Yeah.
My daughter is 2. She's my favorite person in the world. It's okay. My husband knows this. We both agree. It's fine.
That works.
And I tell her every day, all day, how much I love her. But I know that the time that I have with her right now is more a gift for me than for her, because she's only 2. Like, not many people remember very much from this age. And this chick lives a happy life. She has a nanny and drives around in, foreign cars and has silk sheets and like eats organic food. Like, this chick lives the life that most Instagram influencers would kill for. Right? But she's not going to remember this overtly. But I think of it as like weaving a quilt. So let's say you're weaving a quilt and the yarn you're using is white, and it's soft and it feels good and it wraps around you. But every once in a while you weave in like an itchy patch of, I don't know, Brillo pad, right? And it's dark on the white background. And so it's easy to notice those painful moments. But that doesn't mean that you're not still wrapped up in a general soft quilt, and that quilt doesn't in the background, whether you're noticing or not, provide you a sense of safety and security. And that's what I like to think. Those good memories, they don't stand out. You're absolutely right. They just operate in the background, but they formulate who we are in a softer, more compassionate, less obvious way. But I would like to think they're just as powerful, if not more powerful, even if they're not as memorable.
You just got to remember them.
You just got to remember them and call them out and count your blessings, as they say. Because as humans, we are hardwired to focus on the negative.
Yeah, we are.
It's hard. That's why there's a whole Bible about it. So you'll see it in the Quran. You'll see it in Hindu practices. You'll see it in traditional indigenous practices. The emphasis on focusing on intentionally on the good, because that's not our natural state.
No. Don't know why. I don't know why we were created this way.
I don't know, man.
I wouldn't create a being like that, but hey.
Yeah. Well, next time you try to meditate, have that conversation with God and be like, so about this human blueprint thing that you have, what were you thinking?
Do you go back and say, oops?
Right. I mean, are we getting a 2.0 here?
Are we getting an upgrade anytime soon? The last question, kind of reverting back to the beginning too, is we want to leave people with something. So I want you to give them a piece of advice, actionable steps, something that they can understand right now, today, from what they're listening to, and take that next step in their journey.
Oh, so many things, but I'm going to go very, very tangible. People ask me, okay, yeah, you're great, but I got to tell a story in a presentation tomorrow. So what you got for me? This is what I got for you. I call it my crisis story framework. It has 4 parts. The first thing when you're telling a story, before you even get into any of the sections, though, is to make sure that it relates to whatever the heck you're talking about, and realize that you're talking to narcissists with a short attention span, no matter who you're talking to, even if you were talking to yourself. Is it about me? Could you make it about me 5 minutes from now? Is it going to be about 5 minutes after that? Because if not, I'm not listening. So be relevant. The first part of the framework is to start off by capturing these lovely narcissists' attention with a good hook that's related to the crisis. The first sentence of my best-selling book, Spark the Stage, available on Amazon, is I began my entrepreneurial journey as the victim of an abusive relationship. It's the very first sentence. From there, no one is not going to at least read the second sentence, right? Because I've hooked you in. You're like, what the heck? I did not expect this book about public speaking to start this way. And then I've got you. Most people at least half of the book. I got you. So you want to focus on what the beginning is, even if something is, when I tell my postpartum story, usually the first sentence I use is, I died on a cold operating room table on November 7th, 2022. And the whole story is about how the old me died and the new me as a mother was born, and me lamenting how I took care of the old me very poorly and my promise to myself to do better. So it is all about the first part. The second thing is then you articulate the crisis, lean into the pain that it caused you and that defining human emotion characteristic that people can relate to. The third point is to articulate, hopefully in at least 3 steps, but no more, what you did to get yourself out of that crisis. Because if all you do is you sit there and you talk about yourself, by the time you're done, people will be like, well, that's great for you. Anyways, has anybody had any bacon wrap dates recently? You're not going to capture their attention. So you flip it and you say, I've gone through this pain. It has taught me this thing. And this is how I learned that. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then the 4th step of the crisis story framework is to relate it to the larger context. So what exactly, how does this relate to the new initiative you're launching? How does this relate to the overall presentation you're giving? How does this relate to your culture? How does this relate to the performance review that you're giving right now? If you tell stories in that framework, you will captivate hearts and minds. I've given talks that have taken that framework and extended it to anywhere between 9 to 10 minutes and have had audiences in tears. Not because I've had anything super duper traumatic happen to me and I'm telling this super sad story, but because the framework works and people immediately see themselves in your story, they empathize with you, and they now feel inspired to go transform their lives. So that's the last very tangible thing that I will leave you with the bequest that you go out and tell the story. If you need to rewind this, listen to it again, reach out to me if you have any questions, but go tell the story. Not the one that's necessarily your deepest, darkest secret if you're not ready, but go tell your story, because there is someone out there in this world that is waiting to hear your story exactly from you. I could tell a postpartum depression story and someone would be like, and this a lot of people do, like, oh, well, Black women, they just like go through stuff like that, right? You would be surprised. They might need to hear it from you. They might need to hear it from my husband, who was there to support me through my journey, right? So you never know whose life you're going to change and who's waiting for you to begin their own transformation.
And I'll finish all of that with what she just said is reach out. You need to communicate. The only way we can get anywhere is just communication. So we'll have her book in the description too. But also communicate to us. If that's reaching out to us, DMing us, comment, all that crap. I don't care about the algorithm, which I talk shit about the algorithm all the time, so it probably don't like me anyway. But if you communicate, you comment, you email us, we can help. But you're not going to get anywhere with your story, with your life, if you don't take that step and reach out to somebody or tell somebody your story. So I appreciate you. I really do. This was fun, and I hope more people are inspired to tell their story. And I look forward to a couple more episodes with you and going a little deeper.
Oh, I love that. Thanks so much for having me.
All righty.